I don't know what your idea of a dream home looks like, but for me, it was always a log cabin tucked away in the North Carolina mountains. A place with fresh air, chirping birds, the scent of pine trees in the breeze, and, most importantly, no one breathing down my neck about whether I could park in my own driveway or if my mailbox was half an inch too tall. Just peace, finally. No more shared walls. No more city noise. No more rules written by strangers in some concrete building downtown. That was the dream. And for a moment, a short, shining moment, it looked like we'd actually found it. We'd just moved in, me, my wife Rachel, and our 13-year-old son, Eli, after years of living in cramped city apartments. For us, this wasn't just a move. It felt like winning the lottery. The log cabin we found had everything we'd ever wanted: towering pine trees surrounding the property, wraparound porches that practically begged for quiet coffee mornings, and neighbors who actually waved from their yards. Not the fake kind of waves either, real ones, where people made eye contact and smiled like they meant it. The kind of place where your kid could play outside without you worrying every 5 seconds. I remember Rachel saying it as she unpacked boxes in the living room, finally. Somewhere we can actually breathe. I looked outside and saw Eli running around the property, arms outstretched like he was trying to hug the whole forest. His face was lit up with pure joy, a kind of happiness I hadn't seen on him in years. Rachel took a picture of him standing barefoot on the porch, grinning from ear to ear. She leaned over and whispered, "I hope this lasts." I didn't say it out loud, but I was thinking the exact same thing, maybe even hoping too hard. Looking back, that level of happiness should have been a warning sign. Because when does life ever hand you perfection without some kind of fine print? Ours came disguised in khaki slacks and a clipboard. We hadn't even finished unloading the moving truck when she appeared. Donna Beckett. Mid-50s. Posture so stiff she might as well have been made of plywood. She walked across the street like she owned it, and the entire neighborhood, then stopped in front of our porch and smiled in that way people smile when they're not actually happy for you. "Welcome to Whispering Pines," she said. "I'm your HOA president." You'd think she was announcing her reign over a small country the way she said it. It wasn't the words, it was the tone. Polite on the surface, but underneath was this smug undercurrent like we were being granted the honor of her presence. My gut twisted. I've worked in home security for years, installing alarm systems, surveillance, the whole 9 yards, and I've learned to trust my instincts. Something about Donna screamed control freak. And not the harmless kind, either. The clipboard in her hand was practically trembling with need to dominate. She handed me a binder. Not a folder. Not a pamphlet. A binder. It was thick, old-school phone book thick. On the front, in large capital letters, Whispering Pines Community Standards Manual. "You'll want to familiarize yourself with these right away," she said, tapping the cover like she was bestowing some sacred text upon us. "They help maintain our community values." I flipped it open. My heart sank. Page after page of nitpicky, almost comically specific rules. Mailbox height had to be exactly 42.25 inches. Paint colors were restricted to 9 pre-approved shades, all of which looked like they'd been stolen from a hospital waiting room. Even curtain styles were regulated if visible from the street. Yes, curtains. There were sections about lawn gnome placement, plant watering times, trash can positioning, and I swear one paragraph implied our welcome mat couldn't have an authorized text. It was like someone weaponized beige. Rachel caught my eye over Donna's shoulder, and her expression mirrored mine exactly. What did we just move into? But we tried to be optimistic. I figured we could keep our heads down, play along until things settled. That hope lasted exactly 48 hours. We put up a simple basketball hoop for Eli in the driveway. Nothing extravagant. Just a standard hoop on a portable base. His 13 just started showing real interest in the game, and after being stuck indoors most of his life, he deserved that little taste of freedom. Apparently, Donna didn't agree. 2 days later, we found a violation notice taped to our front door like a scarlet letter. Unauthorized recreational equipment visible from street view. Fine, $200. $200. For a basketball hoop. My first instinct was disbelief. Then I started doubting myself. Had I missed something? Maybe there was fine print somewhere. So I called the number on the notice to ask. Guess who picked up? Donna. Of course. Her voice was sticky sweet, like she was smiling while shoving a knife between your ribs. "These rules are for everyone's benefit," she cooed. "We want to keep Whispering Pines beautiful." I wish I could say I kept my cool. But who would? A $200 fine for a basketball hoop in your own driveway? I may have raised my voice. Okay, I definitely did. I ended the call frustrated, but still believing, hoping, this was the end of it. It wasn't. The next morning, the hoop was gone. Vanished. No trace. Just a blank spot where it used to be, and another note. Violation corrected. Fine doubled. $400 due. That's when it hit me. Someone trespassed onto our property in the middle of the night and stole from us. Not vandalized. Not tipped it over. Stole it. Eli came outside and just stared at the empty space. His mouth hung open like he couldn't make sense of what he was seeing. The disappointment in his eyes crushed me. That night, Eli whispered something that made the hairs on my neck stand up. Dad. I saw someone watching our house last night. They had binoculars. I dropped to one knee, tried to keep my voice calm. Are you sure, bud? What time? Midnight. Maybe later. They stood across the street. Just watching. His voice cracked when he said it, and I knew this wasn't just imagination. Something was seriously wrong. I barely slept. I sat in the dark with a mug of coffee, watching the street from the living room window. I kept telling myself it was just some power-hungry neighbor, that she'd eventually get bored and leave us alone. But the violation notices kept coming. Like clockwork. Every few days, a new one. Grass 1/4 above allowed height. Non-compliant welcome mat, blue instead of brown. Trash can visible 3 minutes past pickup time. I started documenting everything, measuring the grass with a ruler, filming myself rolling the trash can back in 30 seconds after the truck left. None of it mattered. Donna kept finding new ways to make our lives miserable. One afternoon, I was washing my car when I saw her standing across the street again. Arms crossed, eyes scanning my house like it was a security threat. When I looked up, our eyes met. She smiled. Not the polite kind, the smug, I own you kind. She didn't look away. Didn't flinch. Just gave me a little wave. Like she wanted me to see her watching. That night, things got worse. Around 2 a.m., I checked our mailbox and found a note. No envelope. Handwritten. Just a piece of lined paper with shaky, almost frantic lettering. Non-compliant residents will be removed. No signature. But I recognized the handwriting. It was the same as every violation notice we'd received. It matched Donna's. I stood there holding that note in the moonlight, my breath catching in my chest. This wasn't about grass or mailboxes anymore. Someone had crossed a line. This was intimidation. Threats. Trespassing. Watching my family. My son. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Not fear, something heavier. A realization. This wasn't about property values. This wasn't just a neighborhood busybody enforcing silly rules. We weren't just dealing with an overzealous HOA president. We were at war with a woman who thought she was a dictator, and would do anything to keep control. And we'd just become her #1 enemy. The truth about Donna Beckett, and the war we're now in. It started as a gut feeling. A slow burning unease that crept up on me late at night when the house was quiet and the world felt still. The kind of feeling you try to brush off because you don't want to seem paranoid or reactionary. But deep down, something kept whispering that we weren't just being harassed, we were being hunted in a calculated, methodical way. I'd had enough of playing defense. So I decided to get proactive. I began by digging through the official Whispering Pines HOA documents, the ones available on the community website and filed with the county. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open and a notepad beside me, cross-referencing every violation Donna had hit us with against the actual governing bylaws. And what I discovered was nothing short of infuriating. No, terrifying. Half the citations Donna issued didn't exist. At all. The mailbox height restriction she insisted on? Not in the bylaws. The grass length fine? Totally fabricated. The rule about only having brown or tan welcome mats. Complete fiction. Her violations weren't just exaggerations of existing rules, many were made up out of thin air. I even found discrepancies in wording, like she had created her own Donna version of the community rulebook, a shadow document with rules designed to harass rather than help. It was like finding the blueprint to a psychological operation. And suddenly, everything started to make a sick kind of sense. I'd been trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, assuming she was just overzealous or misunderstood the guidelines. But now I realized, she wasn't misinterpreting anything. She was inventing authority where none existed. Then the email came. At 11:47 p.m., I got a message from an anonymous Gmail account. The name was obviously fake, something like Neighborhood Truth Seeker 92, but the message was direct and chilling. Check the community forum archives. You're not her first target. Attached were several links and a set of specific dates. My heart pounded as I followed the trail. I accessed the Whispering Pines online community forum, a dusty relic of a website most current residents probably hadn't used in years. But buried in the archives, dated between 2019 and 2023, were post after post, all variations of the same horror story. Different families. Different house numbers. But always the same pattern. It was like reading our future in reverse. Each post detailed fines for fabricated violations. Mysterious property thefts. Nighttime trespassing. Cars keyed. Surveillance equipment mysteriously malfunctioning. Children reporting being watched from the tree line. The more I read, the more it felt like staring into a house of mirrors, distorted versions of what we were already experiencing, each ending the same way. The family eventually packed up and left. Every single time. No lawsuits. No resolutions. Just surrender. The average timeline? 6 to 8 months from move-in to escape. The anonymous sender had given me a roadmap. And according to the pattern, we were right on schedule for the next escalation, financial and legal threats. Donna wasn't just some cranky neighbor with too much time on her hands. She was executing a playbook. A campaign. And we were just the latest chapter. Right on cue, we received the most aggressive notice yet. It was a thick envelope, hand-delivered and taped to our front door. Inside was a single letter, stamped with faux legal phrasing and what looked like a seal, but upon closer inspection, was just the HOA logo in grayscale. Notice of accumulated violations. Total amount due, $800. Payment required within 48 hours to avoid legal enforcement action. The infractions? Still the same made-up nonsense. Grass too long. Unauthorized paint undertones. Welcome mat non-compliance. Apparently, a small corner of my car tire had extended over the driveway edge into a community sightline. I laughed out loud when I read it. Not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd it tipped into the realm of satire. Except it wasn't satire. It was psychological warfare. Donna was trying to financially terrorize us into compliance. And worse, she'd probably succeeded in the past with others. How many of those families had simply paid up, hoping to end the madness? Rachel was crumbling under the pressure. That night she sat on the edge of our bed, her face pale and her hands trembling slightly as she folded yet another violation notice. Maybe we should just pay it, she whispered. Just to get some peace. The defeat in her voice was like a gut punch. I could hear the exhaustion. See the toll this constant tension had taken. She hadn't unpacked the last few boxes in the guest room. Eli had started closing his curtains every night, even though the summer nights were still warm and the stars were stunning. None of us wanted to admit it, but our dream home had started to feel like a trap. And worse, like we were alone in it. I almost gave in. I almost went to the HOA portal and clicked Pay Now. Just to end it. But then I remembered the email. The families. The patterns. The ones who did pay, and then packed up and left anyway. This wasn't about payment. It was about submission. Donna wanted obedience. She wanted us to fold, to disappear. And I realized I couldn't let her win. Not just for our family, but for every family she'd pushed out. So I got to work. That night, I drafted a formal, meticulous letter addressed to the HOA board, not Donna, but the official oversight group, however symbolic they may be. I cited actual bylaw numbers and pointed out every discrepancy between Donna's notices and the legitimate community documents. I labeled the issue as unauthorized rule enforcement and documentation irregularities. I requested an emergency board meeting. I was civil, professional, legally bulletproof. The tone was respectful but firm. I spent hours proofreading it, making sure every citation was correct and every sentence carefully worded. I knew we were probably dealing with someone irrational, but I wanted to build a paper trail of reasonable attempts at resolution. The response came the next day. Donna canceled the meeting before it was even scheduled. Her email wasn't just defensive, it was hostile. She accused us of creating disruption, and demanded immediate payment of $2,000 for what she now called accumulated and escalated violations. The deadline? 24 hours. The consequence? She claimed she would involve the sheriff's department. $2,000. 4 imaginary violations. From $800 to $2,000 in a single day, all because I asked for a formal meeting. I read the email 3 times, trying to process the sheer audacity of it. I install security systems for a living. I've worked with real law enforcement. There's no such thing as a sheriff's division for HOA compliance. If she was bluffing, which I was sure she was, it was the kind of bluff that could backfire in a very serious way. So I did what I do best. I recorded everything. I called Donna. Calmly. Professionally. My voice steady, while my digital recorder captured every word. "Hi Donna," I said, "I'd be very interested to speak with the sheriff's department about this enforcement process you mentioned. Especially since county records don't show any formal law enforcement partnership with Whispering Pines HOA. Silence. Almost 10 seconds of it. And then, crack. "My cousin Rick works security and enforcement," she exploded, her voice no longer sweet or measured. "He'll be happy to explain community compliance to you personally. We handle problem residents our way around here." There it was. A full admission that she was using a family member to impersonate law enforcement in order to intimidate residents. On record. Clear as day. I should have been surprised. But honestly, I wasn't. I was just relieved to finally have proof. Solid, irrefutable evidence that this wasn't just harassment, it was criminal. After that call, I went into full security mode. I upgraded the camera system I'd already installed. Night vision. Motion detection. High-fidelity audio. The works. I wasn't just protecting our home anymore, I was building a case. I noticed the shift almost immediately. At the grocery store, someone I'd chatted with a week ago turned her cart around when she saw me. Another neighbor who once brought over cookies crossed to the other sidewalk. Word was getting out that we were fighting back. And the rest of the neighborhood? They weren't cheering. They were afraid. One evening, while walking his dog, a man down the block leaned in close and whispered, "Just pay the fines, man. No one wins against her. Just keep your head down." It chilled me more than any violation notice. Not just because of what he said, but because of the fear in his eyes when he said it. Whispering Pines wasn't just a neighborhood. It was a controlled environment. A place where compliance was enforced not by logic or law, but by fear. And now, we were trying to break that cycle. The isolation is real. The silence from other neighbors is deafening. But I see the cameras working, see the footage coming in, and I know we're not crazy. Donna made the mistake of going after the wrong family, one with the tools, knowledge, and resolve to stand up and document everything. We're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. We're fighting for everyone she's ever driven out. And we're not backing down. The cracks were beginning to show, not in the cabin, not in our security system, but in my family. Rachel had stopped sleeping through the night. She'd lie awake beside me, her breathing shallow and uneven, listening to every creak of the wood, every rustle of wind. Eli was getting quieter by the day, no longer bounding through the forest behind the house or asking to shoot hoops after dinner. He kept his curtains drawn now, even on the sunniest afternoons. None of us wanted to admit it out loud, but we were starting to suffocate inside the dream home we had once believed was our salvation. Then the new neighbor moved in 2 blocks over. I walked over with a smile, trying to do the neighborly thing, thinking maybe I'd find an ally, someone who hadn't been here long enough to fear Donna's clipboard. I introduced myself, but before I could finish saying our address, she stiffened. Her smile froze. Her eyes darted away like she was looking for an escape. I didn't push. I just nodded and walked home, my stomach sinking the whole way. Something about her expression, that slight but unmistakable flicker of fear, it told me everything I needed to know. Word had spread. Later that evening, Eli found a flyer in our mailbox. It was printed on standard paper, no letterhead, no signature. Just bold, blocky text. Non-compliant residents create hostile living environments. Property, 217 Maple Ridge, yours. Our address was bolded. Underlined. That was the moment Rachel finally said what I could see had been building behind her tired eyes for weeks. "Do you really think Donna will go through with any of her threats?" I looked at her, tried to meet her worry with something steady. "She's backed herself into a corner," I said. "Bullies like her, they double down when someone fights back instead of running." It was true. But that didn't mean I wasn't scared. In fact, deep down, a more primal voice had started whispering ugly questions. What if she really is unhinged? What if this escalates beyond harassment into something dangerous? What if she sends someone who doesn't know this is a game? I should have called the sheriff the minute she threatened fake law enforcement. But I didn't. I was still hoping she'd come to her senses. I was still trying to solve this civilly, by the book, as if we were all playing the same game under the same rules. But that night, everything changed. I was reviewing our security feeds around midnight, triple-checking sensor calibration, making sure our front-facing cameras were recording at the highest resolution. Something in my gut wouldn't let me sleep. Call it instinct. Call it dread. Around 1 a.m., just as I was about to shut the system down and head to bed, the motion sensors triggered. The alert came through with a piercing beep. I looked at the screen. Figures on the porch. At least 2. Then came the pounding. Bang. 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 Sheriff's Department. Open up immediately. We have multiple complaints about this property. The voice was loud, clipped, trying to sound authoritative, but something was off. I've worked with real law enforcement. Trained with them. Installed systems in precinct buildings. And this didn't sound right. The cadence was wrong. The tone was too aggressive, too fast. Real officers don't shout like they're in a high school play. And real officers don't show up at 1 o'clock in the morning over HOA violations. I moved quickly to the security panel, flicking through the camera angles. Every motion-activated camera was rolling, every microphone capturing the show in crisp HD audio. I caught my first glimpse of the visitors. There he was, Rick Sanders, Donna's cousin. Dressed in an ill-fitting navy uniform that sagged in all the wrong places, sleeves too short, pants bunched at the ankles. He had a plastic badge clipped to his chest, reflecting our porch light like it was a disco ball at a kid's birthday party. Even from the grainy outdoor camera, I could see the outline of a sticker on the back of the badge. And right behind him, Donna. Flashlight in one hand. Clipboard in the other. She looked like she was directing a third-rate SWAT raid. I almost laughed. If it weren't so serious, it would have been comedy. I had to bite my tongue to keep from calling out, "Nice costume, Rick." But I held my ground. This wasn't just some prank. These people were either dangerously delusional or willing to commit actual crimes for the sake of HOA order. "We're here to inspect for community violations and remove unauthorized items," Rick called out in his best attempt at an official tone. "You have 30 seconds to open this door voluntarily or we'll be forced to make entry." Forced entry. Over garden gnomes and a basketball hoop. My jaw clenched. I stepped toward the door but didn't open it. I raised my voice calmly, clearly, letting the audio mics capture every word. "You'll need to present official identification and a warrant before we open this door. This is a private residence. You're trespassing." Silence. They weren't expecting to be challenged. Most people, I'm guessing, would have panicked. Opened the door. Begged. Forgiveness. But I wasn't most people. I had security logs, camera angles, audio, and now a live attempted impersonation of law enforcement caught in real time. From behind me, Rachel's hand trembled as she picked up her phone. Her other hand clutched the edge of the kitchen island like she might float away if she let go. Her eyes locked on mine, not afraid of me, but terrified that I might snap, do something reckless, something irreversible. Every rational part of me screamed, "Stay calm. Let the cameras work. Collect the evidence." But there was another part of me, husband, father, protector, that burned with rage. I wanted to fling the door open, shove Rick off the porch, and tell Donna exactly what I thought of her play-acting law enforcement in the middle of the night. But I couldn't. Not with my family watching. Not when I knew Donna would love nothing more than to twist a confrontation into justification. Then I heard Eli. He had stepped into the hallway, his hair tousled, eyes wide but alert. "Dad, are those real police?" he whispered. I knelt down, forced my voice to stay calm. "No, buddy. Real police don't come knocking in the middle of the night over paint colors and mailbox sizes." He nodded slowly. Didn't cry. Didn't retreat. Then he vanished into his room. Seconds later, he reappeared holding his Nerf blaster. The one with flashing LEDs and sound effects. The one that looked, at a glance, just real enough to make someone blink. I opened my mouth to stop him, but something in his eyes made me pause. "I'm going to help," he whispered. I didn't stop him. He walked to the door, opened it just wide enough to slide the barrel of the toy outside. "Get away from our house," he shouted, loud and clear, voice shaking but strong. He pulled the trigger. Pew, pew, pew. Bright lights. Flashing. The Nerf's fake muzzle flare lit up the porch like fireworks. Rick jumped so hard he stumbled backward, his badge popping off his chest and landing with a clink on the wooden planks. The hollow sound of cheap plastic was unmistakable. On the video feed, I saw the tag flutter as it hit the ground, "Party City." Donna let out a shriek, something incoherent, followed by the words, "You'll pay for this." They ran. Rick tripped over the top step, swearing under his breath, his belt loose, pants sagging. Donna's flashlight slipped from her hand and rolled into the ditch, its beam spinning like a signal flare. She didn't stop to pick it up. They didn't just retreat, they fled, humiliated and exposed, chased off by a 13-year-old with a $19 toy. And every second of it was captured in perfect detail by our security system. When the porch went still, when the night was quiet again, I stood in the doorway beside Eli, heart pounding, trying to decide if I was furious, proud, relieved, or all three. Rachel joined us, wrapping her arms around Eli and then around me. We didn't speak. We just stood there, holding each other in the doorway of our not-so-peaceful mountain cabin, as the cold mountain air swept in and the last of Donna's flashlight beam disappeared into the ditch. They would come again, I knew. Donna wouldn't stop here. But something had shifted. For the first time since this all began, they had run. And we had stood our ground. I almost laugh. Almost. But instead, my fingers tighten around the keyboard as I begin tagging the footage. One clip at a time. Rick at the door, his stance unsure, shifting from one foot to the other. Tag. Rick pushing against the door frame with his shoulder, not enough to break in, but enough to show intent. Tag. Donna behind him, clipboard clutched like a general's baton, giving sharp, deliberate hand signals, like she's orchestrating a tactical breach rather than HOA business. Tag. Then the door creaks open just enough for Eli to level the Nerf blaster. The toy fires. Bright flashing LEDs illuminate the porch like a warning flare. Tag. Rick's startled leap backward, followed by the badge falling to the porch, spinning before it lands face up. The camera zooms in just enough to catch the corner of a Party City sticker peeling from its edge. Tag. And then the retreat, their frantic scramble into the darkness. The flashlight Donna drops as she flees. The sound of Rick swearing as he stumbles over the steps. All of it, time-stamped, high definition, cross-angled from 3 different vantage points. If I were on the other side of this, if I were watching as an outside investigator or legal rep or even a skeptical neighbor, I'd say we just captured the most self-incriminating footage in HOA history. And then I glance at Eli. He's still standing there, just a few steps inside the doorway, chest rising and falling fast, Nerf gun hanging loosely from his hand now like he's not sure whether he won or lost. His eyes are wide, but he's not crying. He's wired. He's still buzzing with adrenaline. Did I do the right thing? He asks, voice small but steady. I step toward him and wrap an arm around his shoulder, gently pulling him closer. You protected your family, I tell him. When grown adults came to our home in the middle of the night and tried to scare us with fake authority, you stood your ground. He leans into me a little more. That took real courage, Eli. And sometimes, I glance down at the bright orange toy in his hand, the LEDs still flickering faintly. Sometimes even a toy is enough when you use it for the right reason. He doesn't say anything after that. Just nods, and then walks with me to the bedroom, blaster still in hand. But instead of going to his room, he curls up next to my side of the bed. No pillow. No blanket. Just the floor, his back against the wooden frame, and the Nerf gun resting across his lap like a night watchman. And I don't send him back. Truthfully, I don't want him far from me either. I stay up long after everyone else has gone quiet. Rachel's breathing deepens beside me. Eli's eventually settles into soft, rhythmic sighs. But I lie there, staring at the ceiling, then back at my laptop screen, cycling through the footage again and again. Rick's badge dropping like a cheap Halloween prop. Donna's face, contorted in command 1 second and pure panic the next. And Eli, my 13-year-old son, doing what grown-ups around here have been too afraid to do. He didn't run. He didn't freeze. He faced them. And it worked. I feel pride, real, deep pride. But it's not clean. Underneath it, something else churns. What kind of neighborhood have we moved into? Where a child has to defend his home from adults dressed up as law enforcement. That can't be normal. That shouldn't be acceptable. And in the stillness of our cabin, a thought creeps in, quiet but undeniable, this isn't the end. It's the beginning. Because now, we have something Donna can't hand-wave away or bully into silence. We have the footage. We have the audio. We have the truth. And the moment that truth sees daylight, Donna's little reign of clipboard terror won't just be over. It'll be exposed for what it really is, criminal. But the real question isn't whether we can prove what happened. The real question is, will anyone believe us over her? Donna's smile could sell ice to a glacier. She knows how to work a room, how to say just enough truth to make her lies feel plausible. And if she feels cornered, I know she'll come back smarter, nastier, and this time, with real backup. Which is why, within 48 hours, I request a special HOA board meeting. I cite escalated community safety concerns and possible criminal activity involving leadership. I keep the wording vague. I don't attach any footage. I want the impact to land when it matters most. The meeting is scheduled for Thursday evening, 7 p.m., at the community center. And the moment the announcement goes out, the neighborhood starts buzzing like a beehive that just got kicked. Everyone senses something big is coming. Some people still cross the street to avoid me. Others hover on their driveways, watching, waiting. And a few brave souls approach quietly, sharing stories they'd clearly been sitting on for far too long. HOA horror tales. Fines for bird feeders. Warnings about wind chimes deemed audibly disruptive. A neighbor down the hill tells me he once got a notice for having mismatched patio furniture. It's not just us. Donna's been running her fiefdom unchecked for years. By the time Thursday arrives, the community center is standing room only. Folding chairs fill the aisles. People are packed shoulder to shoulder, some even lining the back wall. It's not just a meeting anymore, it's an event. Donna arrives early, flanked by Rick, who, bafflingly, is still wearing part of the same ridiculous fake uniform. His belt is twisted, badge crooked, sleeves mismatched. He looks like a rent-a cop who got dressed in the dark after losing a bet. Donna, meanwhile, is pure theater. She's dressed sharp, lips pursed, posture straight, clipboard held like a holy relic. Her face radiates practiced grace, her eyes scanning the crowd like a queen surveying her court. She's ready for war, and she thinks she'll win. She wastes no time. As soon as the board opens the floor, she launches into her monologue. She paints us as dangerous, unstable residents who orchestrated an ambush against volunteer community enforcement. She calls us aggressive, belligerent, escalatory. She implies Eli, our 13-year-old son, was trained to assault HOA representatives. She even accuses us of psychological warfare. Her voice shakes in the right places. Her tone wavers just enough to suggest suppressed emotion. And somehow, some people nod along, faces tight with concern. The board lets her speak. Rules are rules. Everyone gets a turn. She's got a PowerPoint. Fake infraction charts. Photos of our yard with arrows pointing to non-existent violations. Printed emails with suspiciously convenient timestamps. She refers to me repeatedly as the hostile male homeowner. I look over at the board. Sandra's jaw is tight. Her brow furrows with every slide Donna clicks. Mark, the treasurer, hasn't looked up from the table in 10 minutes. There's a shift happening in the room. And then Rick takes the floor. Still in costume. Still fully committed to the delusion. He describes Eli's Nerf blaster as an electronic projectile device. Claims he was a compliance officer conducting a routine enforcement sweep. He recounts his escape from our porch like he just returned from Fallujah. But his voice cracks. His story bloats. His words start running into each other. And then, from somewhere in the second row, someone laughs. Not loudly. Just a single, audible chuckle. But it breaks the spell. Murmurs ripple through the room. Suspicion. Skepticism. And that's when I walk up. I say nothing at first. Just connect my laptop to the projector and say, I think the footage will explain it better than I can. The room quiets instantly. You can hear the scrape of a folding chair shift. I click play. There's Rick. Pushing the door. The fake badge. Donna's hand signals. The toy gun flashing. Eli's voice, get away from our house. The badge falls. The sticker reads, Party City. People gasp. Someone up front mutters, what the hell? Another voice near the back, oh my god. Then I play the call. Donna's voice, my cousin Rick works security and enforcement. He'll be happy to explain community compliance to you personally. We handle problem residents our way around here. The room erupts. Sandra stands, pointing at Donna. You brought someone impersonating law enforcement to a resident's home. Mark finally speaks, voice brittle. That's not HOA enforcement. That's criminal harassment. Donna opens her mouth, but nothing comes out. Her polished image fractures in real time. And then Rick, sweaty, trembling, breaking, blurts it out. Okay. The uniform wasn't real. I borrowed it from my security job at the outlet mall. She gave me $200 and said it was just to scare him a little. I didn't think the kid would have a blaster. Gasps. Whispers. Accusations. It all falls apart. And just like that, Donna's reign ends, not with a confrontation, but with the truth, finally projected loud enough for everyone to hear. Underscore 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 underscore. Some neighbors had no idea what was happening. Others left quietly over the years, confused or defeated, unsure why their dream homes became nightmares. None had video footage, until now. Most just disappeared under the weight of unexplained fines, late-night warnings, or stress-induced relocations. We were the first to gather proof, not just rumors or suspicions, but high-definition, time-stamped, cross-angled evidence. I pull up one final set of documents, 4 years' worth of violation notices, each issued by Donna without any record of HOA board review or approval. They're all signed solely by her. 5 families. All fined heavily. All threatened with liens or legal action. All eventually gone. And every single one of their properties, each time, was followed by a community adjustment project managed and completed by Donna's family-owned construction company. It's not coincidence. It's a strategy. A pattern so obvious, it feels brazen. Mark takes off his glasses and rubs his face slowly, fingers pressing into his eyes like he's trying to wipe away the truth. Sandra, who had flipped open the HOA bylaw book earlier in the meeting with quiet determination, now pages through it rapidly, jaw set like a hammer ready to fall. The vote isn't close. It's unanimous. Donna is suspended immediately, pending a criminal investigation. They move swiftly, without debate, to notify the HOA's attorney and the local police department. Donna stands still for a beat, eyes wide, lips parted like she can't quite process what's just happened. Then her face hardens. This is slander, she snaps, voice rising as she grabs her clipboard and shoves it under one arm. False accusations. You've all just opened yourselves up to massive liability. I hope you have lawyers. You're going to need them. She storms out, heels striking the tile floor like retreating gunfire, her exit echoing through the silent community center. Rick trails behind her, not saying a word, holding his fake badge in both hands like a child clinging to a broken toy. He doesn't even try to look proud anymore. Just lost. As Donna's car disappears down the mountain road, brake lights flaring briefly before vanishing into the dusk, I finally let myself breathe again. For the first time in months, maybe longer. There's a weight lifted, a pressure I didn't even realize I'd been carrying until it was gone. We didn't just survive. We won. But as I look around at the stunned crowd, the neighbors whispering in hushed tones, the board members blinking in disbelief, the quiet that always comes after a storm, I know this battle was only the surface. Because Donna didn't leave like someone defeated. She left like someone regrouping. Her final threats, barked over her shoulder as she exited, were more than hollow bluster. She made it clear, she wasn't done. Not by a long shot. And next time, she wouldn't bring Rick in a costume. She'd come with lawyers. Maybe even real private investigators. Maybe worse. Sure enough, within a week, local news stations across the Tri-County area start receiving glossy press releases on professional letterhead. The sender? A public relations firm specializing in reputation recovery and crisis communications. Donna's new narrative is slick and calculated. She's a dedicated volunteer leader, an unpaid civil servant unfairly targeted by a group of disgruntled newcomers who weaponized their child against neighborhood officials. Her press releases read like political speeches, full of vague appeals to fairness and phrases like protecting the integrity of the community. It might be convincing, if you hadn't seen the footage of her cousin, in a Party City badge, trying to wedge our front door open at 1 a.m. She even fabricates testimonials, statements from anonymous longtime neighbors who describe us as aggressive, combative, disruptive. One testimonial accuses us of having a history of conflict with authority figures, whatever that means. The smear campaign ramps up quickly. Donna's team begins filing copyright takedown claims on our security footage. They argue it violates Rick's privacy. They say it's defamatory. They allege we created a deep fake using sophisticated editing software. Their filings are absurd, but they come in rapid fire, trying to overwhelm every platform hosting the footage. Every time one video gets taken down, 3 more go up, mirrored, archived, subtitled, remixed with clown music or edited like a trailer for a Netflix docuseries. The internet isn't just viral, it's vindictive. Donna has unleashed a battle she cannot win. Because while her PR team deals in crafted illusions, we have something they can't replicate, the truth. And the truth is on tape. Still, the fallout isn't easy. At school, Eli comes home unusually quiet one afternoon. He won't take off his hoodie. He stares out the window most of the drive back. Finally, he mumbles, "Some kid said I pulled a gun on a cop." That hits me like a punch to the gut. It's not about clearing our names anymore. It's about protecting our son from lies that, if left unchallenged, will cling to him for the rest of his life. This fight, however ugly, has become necessary. Then the real breakthrough comes. A regional investigative journalist reaches out after watching our footage online. She's been working on a multi-county expose on HOA abuses and sees in our case the perfect anchor for her piece. Within days, she uncovers what no one else had yet managed to pin down: a money trail. Every major maintenance contract our HOA awarded in the last 5 years? Donna's family business received them all. Every one. And each job, every fence, road patch, security upgrade, was billed 30 to 40% above market rates. The implications are staggering. What we thought was personal harassment. It was organized fraud. A scheme. A system. The investigative piece hits local news like a lightning strike. HOA president's family profits while residents suffer, the headline blares. Our security footage is embedded in the online article, but it's no longer the story, it's just Exhibit A. The article outlines a methodical operation: drive certain families out with bogus fines, then approve improvements to the newly vacated homes and award the work to Donna's company. Rinse. Repeat. Over 5 years, her family earned over $200,000 from this quiet racket. Soon, families who'd moved away begin reaching out to the reporter. 7 of them. Then 10. Each shares the same story in different shades: unreasonable citations, threats of liens, hostile letters, unannounced visits. And always, shortly after they left, renovations. Necessary repairs. Community adjustments. The depth of Donna's scheme is dizzying. The testimonies are heartbreaking. Elderly residents who moved out early to avoid non-compliance hearings. Parents who watched their kids develop anxiety about playing outside. A single mother who spent her entire savings fighting a lawsuit Donna filed over weeds that allegedly violated a landscaping covenant. The community, once hushed and splintered, begins to find its voice. Neighbors finally speak openly. There are porch conversations, group texts, a town hall. People compare fines, photos, letters. The patterns become undeniable. Then law enforcement takes action. The district attorney opens a criminal investigation. The state attorney general steps in to review mail fraud claims, based on the violation letters sent under false authority. And because of the multi-state nature of the fake compliance notices and potential financial racketeering, even the FBI starts asking questions. Donna's little HOA empire, once untouchable, is falling apart at the seams. And it isn't quiet. During a televised interview on a local morning show, a reporter surprises Donna with a still from our footage, Rick's badge midair, the Party City tag fluttering in full clarity. Donna's smile falters. She stammers, tries to pivot. That video. I've been advised not to. She walks off camera. It loops twice that night on the news. After that, the floodgates open. More neighbors come forward. Some admit they stayed silent out of fear. Others confess they believed Donna, until they saw the footage. One woman, with tears in her eyes, tells reporters, "I thought it was just me. I thought I was the crazy one." It's not just about fines or fraud anymore. It's about the damage Donna left in her wake: emotional, financial, psychological. Stories emerge of children developing nervous tics. Of elderly couples quietly relocating to assisted living because they couldn't endure the stress. People were driven not just out of their homes, but out of their peace. The transformation is slow, but undeniable. Property values recover. Families cancel their moving plans. Neighbors who hadn't spoken in years start organizing community events. For the first time, it feels like a real neighborhood again. Not a fiefdom. Not a surveillance state. One day, a neighbor I've never really spoken to before shows up with cookies. "I didn't know how bad it was," she says quietly. "I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner." And just as I start believing justice will win, Donna's lawyer calls. He has an offer. And the second I hear what it is, I know this nightmare isn't quite over yet. Not yet. Her lawyers argued tirelessly, painting her as a misunderstood community volunteer who simply cared too much. According to them, Donna had only wanted to uphold community standards, protect property values, and ensure that the neighborhood remained pristine and orderly. Their defense leaned heavily on the image of a well-meaning, if slightly overzealous, citizen who got carried away with her duties. They spoke of her long hours, her tireless commitment, her so-called sacrifices. The performance, honestly, was almost admirable in its complete detachment from reality. But the facts, unfortunately for her, spoke louder than any theatrical courtroom narrative. And the truth doesn't waver in the face of well-rehearsed lies. Because video evidence doesn't lie. The footage, played on the courtroom's large screen, was crystal clear and damning. It captured Rick in a fake security uniform, complete with a flimsy Party City badge that dramatically fell off mid-altercation. Donna could be seen orchestrating the entire scene from the shadows, her gestures sharp and authoritative like a commander running an operation. The courtroom sat in stunned silence as the events unfolded before them in high definition. Rick attempting to break into our house under the guise of HOA enforcement, startled into retreat by the sudden appearance of a 13-year-old holding a toy gun. The gasps echoed through the courtroom when the absurdity of the scene collided with its underlying terror, a child defending his home against adults abusing their fake authority. Rick, now cooperating with the prosecution in exchange for a plea deal, provided a level of detail that stunned even those of us who had lived through it. He laid bare the inner workings of Donna's 5-year campaign of terror. It wasn't just a few random incidents or personal vendettas. No. This was systemic. This was business. He described how Donna would target specific families, usually ones with children, elderly residents, or anyone who showed resistance to her authority. These targets received fake violation notices, printed on official-looking HOA letterhead. Their alleged offenses ranged from minor landscaping issues to completely fabricated infractions. And when that didn't work, she escalated. Late-night visits. Flashlights through windows. Mysterious damage to property. Fines that doubled each month. Families were isolated, surrounded by neighbors who were too scared or too complicit to speak up. Many left. Most sold at a loss. And when they did, Donna's family construction company was conveniently waiting in the wings to fix the community through overpriced repair and maintenance contracts. Rick admitted that families who resisted were met with psychological warfare until they broke. And as the courtroom listened in horror, one undeniable truth emerged. This wasn't overzealous volunteering. This was racketeering. But the real turning point came when a former board treasurer stepped up to the witness stand. Her voice trembled, but her words were devastating. She recounted years of coercion and blackmail. Donna told me she could ruin my son's career if I didn't approve her contracts. I believed her. I saw what she did to other families, she said. The courtroom was silent. Her testimony peeled back the final layer, showing the fear that silenced good people for years. Donna's manipulation of the HOA's finances had enabled her family to profit over $200,000 from inflated community improvement projects that weren't needed, didn't last, or were never completed at all. Then came Eli. The judge allowed him to give a personal impact statement, and I swear the room froze when he stood. My son, just 13, looked Donna straight in the eye and said, "You made our family afraid to live in our own house. That's not what neighbors do. Nobody should have that kind of power. And I'm glad I stood up to you." His voice was steady, his tone calm, but the effect was profound. Even the jurors seemed visibly moved. Donna, in contrast, wouldn't look up. Her eyes fixed on the floor. In that moment, the contrast was glaring. A teenage boy armed only with a Nerf gun had shown more courage and integrity than the woman who had orchestrated a campaign of terror. Rachel squeezed my hand as Eli finished. I looked at her, and I saw pride, yes, but also grief. Grief for the months we lost to fear. Grief for the friendships that had been crushed under the weight of suspicion. Grief for the nights our son didn't sleep in his room because he felt unsafe in our own home. Testimony after testimony confirmed the same pattern. 7 former residents described nearly identical experiences of harassment, targeted fines, and manipulation. Every time someone moved out under pressure, Donna's construction company swooped in to renovate, remodel, or repair at grossly inflated prices. The deeper the court dug, the more grotesque the picture became. Donna hadn't just abused her role, she had weaponized it. The judge returned the verdict: guilty on all counts: fraud, harassment, conspiracy, and impersonating a law enforcement officer. Rick received 6 months in community service. Donna got 18 months in prison, was ordered to pay $50,000 in restitution, and received a lifetime ban from holding any HOA position ever again. But more than that, the judge made a statement. In his closing remarks, he called Donna's actions a calculated assault on the social fabric of a community and said, "Let this be a warning to anyone who hides tyranny behind paperwork." When the gavel fell, the room exhaled as one. The transformation in our neighborhood was immediate. Within days, a new HOA president was elected, someone reasonable, transparent, and genuinely committed to rebuilding trust. Donna's absurd rules were repealed. We installed a real playground where the basketball hoop had once stood. Volunteers began fixing up shared spaces together. A neighbor we'd never met brought over cookies and apologized. He said, "I didn't know how bad it was. I'm sorry." Eli, our quiet inventor, became something of a local hero. The confidence he gained from standing up for what was right changed him. He still built gadgets and designed contraptions, but now he shared his knowledge. He taught younger kids about engineering, about standing up for each other, and about integrity. I caught him once showing second graders how to wire a motion sensor to a sprinkler system as a joke defense against clipboard-carrying intruders. The whole street came alive. Families who had once lived behind locked doors began organizing block parties. The old picnic area was painted and repurposed as a gathering spot. Kids rode their bikes freely, laughter echoing through a neighborhood that had once been defined by silence and suspicion. As for Donna, the consequences followed her well beyond the courtroom. She was forced to sell her luxury home to cover fines and legal fees. Her family construction business lost every contract and its reputation was ruined. Her name became synonymous with HOA corruption across 3 counties. Other communities launched their own investigations. Newspapers called Eli the kid who ended the clipboard cult. And, honestly, he earned it. Our experience became part of a larger story. Reform swept across the region. HOAs were restructured. Oversight committees formed. Communities realized that positions of power needed checks and balances. Our story inspired not just justice, but change. I often tell people, we didn't destroy Donna. She destroyed herself the moment she chose power over people. The truth will always find a way through, especially when documented, shared, and supported. As I finish writing this, Eli and his friends are locked in an epic water balloon war in the very spot where our battle with Donna began. Laughter replaces tension. Community replaces fear. Rachel sits beside me, watching our son lead his fellow neighborhood kids in mock drills involving Nerf guns and obstacle courses. She leans into me and says, "He really did open fire that night." I laugh and wrap an arm around her. He did. And it changed everything. So if you're out there, facing an HOA bully or any form of neighbor intimidation, know this, you are not alone. Document everything. Build your evidence. Find your allies. Courage isn't about shouting the loudest, it's about refusing to be silenced. Even the smallest act of resistance can bring down the biggest bully. Sometimes all it takes is a camera, a kid with a Nerf gun, and the words, "Not here. Not anymore." If this story moved you, if it reminded you of something you or someone you love went through, leave a comment. I read every single one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the thanks button if you want to help us keep these stories coming. This is QA Stories. We have plenty more tales to tell. And trust me, the next one's even wilder. The end.